That's all you do, baby. Gas on, kid, gas on.
This is a country that tells its stories in symbols.
Oh! Forward! March!
Tidy, flesh-tingling packages of patriotism. It's so much more complicated than that. So when a man is honest enough, you might even say brave enough, to see the complexities, his own.
I was at a very dark point, dark point.
And his Army's.
What is so damn hard that we can't, that we can't accomplish some of this stuff.
When the story unrolls, it's a little less tidy.
And my God, what a mess.
And yet, J.R. Salzman distills his story into a symbol, too. He calls it a lumberjack in a desert.
I thought it was very fitting.
He was still a Western Wisconsin log roller, world champion, ESPY winner, when he posted his first weblog entry about his pending deployment.
I knew when I joined the Guard that I'd be going to Iraq sooner or later.
Before he left the woods and lakes he loved for the sand and soot of desert Iraq, he wrote that he hoped all the good stuff from the past year, the medals he'd won, the movie he'd shot, would get him through if stuff in Iraq goes bad. And it did.
If anything happens, if I get blown up, I can lose an arm, I can lose a hand, but as long as I still have my legs and I can still log roll, I'm happy.
And then it happened in almost exactly that way.
I really took my arm off just above the wrist and had sprayed my left hand with shrapnel. But when I came to, the first words out of my mouth were, "Oh, Josie, oh, Josie."
His wife of just a little more than a year.
I'd promised her that I was going to come back in one piece.
I always had the thought in my mind, either he was coming home alive and okay, or he was coming home in a box. There was never anything in between.
Hard for me to tell you this, but I've been hurt over here. I had an IED go off.
His first entry after the explosion came from the hospital.
And they said, "Oh, we have a laptop." All I had was one finger. I had one finger sticking out from my bandages, so they put it on my lap, and I typed the whole thing.
And was surprisingly upbeat.
You're in high spirits for about the first week and a half, and that's when your whole world kind of comes crashing down around you. Your arm's not going to grow back. A prosthetic arm is not an arm. It's just a tool.
The tools he trains himself to use now are not the woodworking kind he's made a living with.
He's a trooper. He's definitely one of our poster children.
He's incredibly self-motivated, but he's also a perfectionist.
When you go to bed, when you close your eyes, it feels like you have two hands. And it's trying to retrain your brain to the new you.
Who can't be perfect anymore.
They slightly cut down to size you.
In January, he wrote an entry called Coping and called himself a one-armed, four-fingered gimp.
I was feeling that my days of being a carpenter or just being a person that works with my hands were over, and that I was always going to be the crazy veteran, who got wounded way back in the war, but he couldn't do anything anymore.
He was, in his wife's words, beginning to crumble.
I couldn't wave a magic wand and give him his arm back. I couldn't make the pain go away. There's just nothing I could do but sit back and watch. And it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is just watch him.
They were married for just 2 weeks before he left for Iraq, and she is just 20 years old. But she's done more than she realizes.
Cheating, you have two hands.
Oh, shut up.
If it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't have got it done. All right.
It's not the therapy that's been so hard. Even relearning to fly fish is considered that.
Like, after casting for a couple minutes, I barely had enough strength to hang onto the rod anymore.
But the scandal at Walter Reed, reports of a nation letting its soldiers down, has touched him too.
The whole system is not designed for the sheer number of wounded that are going through here.
J.R. wrote about that in an entry called Broken System, about, in his words, appalling conditions at Walter Reed, overcrowded, moldy housing, poor staffing, and
I've never been to a place that was so damn disorganized in my life.
which has actually been the worst thing for him. Endless running from office to office, countless forms and documents, delays, unreasonable restrictions and requirements.
I couldn't even begin to fathom what it would be like to run around and do this ridiculous paperwork for someone who was in a wheelchair or who didn't have a loved one there.
In that way, he knows he's lucky. His loved one has helped him maneuver through the mess. And he and Josie have settled into nice new housing at Walter Reed. Still, he's ready to leave and has no idea how soon they'll let him.
But you gotta draw the line.
He has seen the complexities in his war
If something needs attention and it needs to be fixed, I'm going to bring attention to it.
and has been brave enough
I'll say anything, and I have on my weblog. I'm like, what are you going to do, send me to Iraq?
to share them. He has begun to work his way back from his dark, dark place.
You know, I see what he's going through and know that if he can do it, I can do it. I mean, he's got the hardest road to walk here. And if he's gonna keep moving, I'm gonna be right beside him.
It was important just to let people know the sacrifice that we really make. And, you know, I'm just a wounded soldier. I can't imagine what it's like for the family of a soldier who has died.